Chapter 34. Until Death.
I'm fine. It's fine. Just go out there, say a few lines, and be done with it.
Little Wing informed her own reflection, trying to maintain a serious gaze into her own eyes.
There's nothing to be worried about. It's not like if you mess up that...
Little Wing grimaced, dropping to the floor and placing her front hooves over her eyes.
I'm not fine. Not fine at all. Please, dear, try to calm down.
Windy whistles cooed from the corner of the room, shutting the window to ensure her daughter didn't attempt to flee out of it.
It's natural to be nervous, but this is your big day, and nothing will go wrong. I promise.
Windy Whistles and her quivering daughter were in a spacious dressing room, a large mirror standing in one corner nearby to a sizable dresser. The rest of the room was lined with wardrobes and ponnikins, the midday sun pouring in through the window and casting light onto the dress that Windy was preparing for Little Wing. It was a long, flowing white dress with cyan highlighting running along the sides, tailor-made for the younger Pegasus on what would be one of the most important days of her life. The past few months had been a flurry of excited activity and preparation. Nary a day after their engagement had the dresses been ordered from the obvious source, and a venue prepared to host the wedding. They had arranged for the ceremony itself to be held in a large hall that, on other occasions, would be used as something of a ballroom. The party afterwards would also take place there, but after the ceremony, every pony would be ushered out for photographs while staff hastily rearranged the hall for the festivities. That was the idea, at least. They had to get Little Wing to the aisle first.
I'm not ready for this.
Little Wing muttered fearfully.
Nope,
Windy replied, standing Little Wing up and preparing to help her into her wedding dress.
And neither will you be tomorrow, or the day after that, or after that.
Little Wing huffed.
So in other words, buck up and get on with it. And I didn't even need to tell you that.
Windy replied with a chuckle.
You've both been so excited. It's infectious, really. I don't think you need us to infect you with excitement.
Her daughter pointed out with a wry smirk.
True enough,
she conceded.
But as I was saying, you've both been so excited in the run-up that it's clear how much you both want this to go well. Jitters on the day itself are to be expected, but it'll all melt away when you see each other.
Little Wing remained silent for a moment as parts of the dress were fitted onto her, only responding when the moment was opportune.
And yet you all won't let us near each other. You know it's bad luck to see the bride in her dress before the wedding, Little Wing.
Windy gently reminded her youngest child.
I'm pretty sure that rule applies to brides with grooms,
Little Wing protested.
We're both the bride, so it doesn't count. That's not how it works, dear. I'm afraid you'll just have to wait in anticipation a little while longer.
Little Wing pouted.
No fair. And now you sound like your father,
Windy noted with a wide grin.
It will all be worth it. Don't worry. I know it will, just...
Little Wing tried to slump back down to the floor, though was prevented from doing so by her mother, who just continued to work.
I can face down a rampaging manticore, probably. I'm a reservist for one of the most elite units in the equestrian military, but this? This terrifies me. We are only ponies, dear,
Windy responded.
More or less.
Little Wing deadpanned under her breath, unheard by her adoptive mother.
I'm sure you and Dashy could beat that manticore with your hooves and amazing flying, and go home to brag about it later,
Windy continued.
But love, well, you can't conquer that in the same way. And Misty is far more dangerous to me than a manticore is.
Little Wing stated with a giggle.
Don't tell her I said that. Your secret is safe with me,
Windy joked in response.
But just a little while longer and it will all be done. And my little filly won't be my little filly anymore.
Little Wing's ear twitched at her mother's sniffle, and she turned her head to see Windy Whistle's eyes begin to water as she battled to control herself. Little Wing gave her a soft smile, wrapping a wing around her mother and giving her a light nuzzle.
Hey, nothing's gonna change with us. You're my mother, and that's a right that belongs to nobody else. I'll always be right here, and I love you.
Windy cupped her daughter's cheek, smiling back at her.
I know, my sweet girl. Now please help me stop crying before I ruin the dress. I just got it done.
Little Wing laughed, turning back to the mirror to view herself fully dressed up and ready to go. She had very few words to describe herself. She was seeing the image of a true bride she'd only seen in photographs of Princess Miyamori Cadenza's wedding and, even further back than that, on an old television set that used to be much of her life. Suffice to say, she couldn't stop her own tears from falling.
Thank you. I think Miss Rarity would die should a wedding dress not be its best.
Windy mused, overwhelmed herself.
Best bride ever. Brides. There are two of us.
Little Wing reminded her mother.
Of course. You're right. Just wait here for a few moments, Little Wing. I need to make sure the others are in place. And get some air.
Little Wing only hummed in confirmation as she heard the door creak open and then closed again with a click. She stared at the fantasy mirror in the mirror, breath caught in her throat. It all suddenly seemed so surreal, almost like a dream. She could imagine herself being back on that sofa, having simply fallen asleep and dreamt of pastel ponies and a life far out of her reach. She stopped a step short of pinching herself. She decided, then and there, that she was, in fact, finally ready. Ready to marry the mare she loved and continue on with her life. Little Wing then glanced at the space behind her in the mirror, before turning around entirely. One more thing she had to admit. She was surprised she hadn't yet spotted a familiar dark alicorn watching over such a significant event, as she had done with others, albeit with decreasing frequency. Maybe if no such sightings occurred, she had departed for good. And that Emma, too, was gone forever. Little Wing was led right up to the large wooden doorway leading into the hall where the marriage was to commence, her father holding her hoof tenderly. Rainbow Dash and Scootaloo were with her, her chosen bridesmaids, of course, while the rest of her family were already seated within. Music was already playing inside the hall, with Misty Gust having just been let in by her own father but a few moments before Little Wing arrived. Their families were working very hard to time it all down to the letter, something Little Wing could never adequately articulate her gratefulness for. But now, it was just a matter of waiting for Misty to be set by the altar, ready to be given away by Wild Ace, and for the doors to be opened once more for Little Wing's admittance.
Scared?
Rainbow Dash whispered over to Little Wing, getting a dirty look in return.
You'll do fine, Squirt.
Rainbow was wearing a rather simple blue dress that design-wise matched Scootaloo's, the only difference being that Scootaloo's dress was colored after her mane. Also, Little Wing didn't like the odd smirks they were wearing that were less of a "you're getting married" smirk and more of a "we know something you don't" kind of smirk.
What are you two grinning about?
Little Wing hissed back at them.
What am I missing here?
Scootaloo looked over at Rainbow Dash.
Should we tell her? I don't know. Might leave it until later. Spit it out,
Little Wing insisted.
If you say so, Wing,
Scootaloo replied coyly.
Nothing major, really. Just that Surprise is retiring from the Wonderbolts.
Rainbow continued on.
And the Pegasus at the top of the reservist list is being bumped up to the main team member.
Little Wing blinked.
And that member happens to be some mare who's getting married today. What a coincidence, right?
Scootaloo finished. Little Wing blinked. Again?
You're being serious? I also heard that Spitfire wants to talk to you about something during the reception,
Rainbow added in.
I wonder what that's about.
Wonder indeed. Any time there was to process this information was dashed when the doors opened up wide, increasing the volume of the music tenfold as all eyes turned towards the entrance. Bo Hothoof began to move the catatonic Little Wing forward, sharing the grins of the two bridesmaids. Come on, my little Wonderbolt, Bo Hothoof remarked, though desperately trying to hold back his own prideful tears. Showtime. He led her into the hall, immediately seeing the countless ponies sat row by row in the chairs set up for that exact event. Family, extended family, friends, and other invitees were all staring right at her. She could easily spot Rainbow Dash's best friends among the crowd. It was hard to miss the now ethereal mane of the large lavender alicorn. That in itself was daunting. A princess at the wedding. No pressure, right? But it all paled in comparison to what, in Little Wing's eyes, was an angel at the altar. Misty Gust stood there with a similar expression on her face to Little Wing's, each staring at the other as Bo led his child all the way up the aisle to the very end. And then they were there, side by side. Each looked at the other in complete awe, no longer even noticing each other's dresses, instead just looking deep into their eyes.
Hey,
Little Wing muttered.
Hi.
Misty returned.
You look better. I doubt that. No, you really...
A cough got their attention, and they looked towards the pony official from the mayor's office who would be conducting the wedding ceremony. We are ready to begin, the Pegasus Stallion announced. The music cut off, every pony taking their seats as the noise levels reduced to nothingness. They all waited with bated breath, each of their fathers standing to the sides alongside their respective bridesmaids, the rest of their family sitting in the front rows. Princess Twilight had been seated at the very back, likely done so her tall stature wouldn't block the view of any pony behind her. Pinkie Pie even gave an enthusiastic wave when she saw Little Wing looking towards them, only to be chastised quietly by Rarity. Twilight, Fluttershy, and Applejack remained in a respectful silence during their friend's shenanigans. Little Wing could even see the Wonderbolt's main team and reservists alike, sitting around in the middle rows. Each of the main team, even the soon-to-retire Surprise, had come in their dress uniforms, while the reservists were in the usual suits and dresses most of the guests wore. And then the official began to speak. Dearly beloved, we have come together in the presence of Princess Twilight herself to witness and bless the joining together of these two mares in marriage. Into this union are Little Wing and Misty Gust now come to be joined. If any of you can show just cause why they may not be lawfully wed, speak now, or else forever hold your peace. No pony made a sound. Very well. I charge you both, here in the presence of an alicorn and the witness of this company, that if either of you know any reason why you may not be married lawfully and in accordance with equestrian law, do now confess it. Once again, not a sound. The official smiled, turning to Little Wing. Little Wing, will you have this mare be your wife, to live together with her for the rest of your days until death do you part? Will you love her, comfort her, honor and keep her in sickness and in health, and, forsaking all others, be faithful unto her as long as you both shall live? And so the moment had come. And really, now? Was there any other possible answer she could give?
Yes, I do.
The pony nodded in approval, and he turned to Misty next. Misty Gust, will you have this mare to be your wife, to live together with her for the rest of your days until death do you part? Will you love her, comfort her, honor and keep her, in sickness and in health, and, forsaking all others, be faithful unto her as long as you both shall live?"
"I do."
"And who shall give these 2 mares away to be married?" Bo Hothoof and Wild Ace stepped forth, each of the fathers confirming their approval of the ceremony. "With the approval of the fathers, and the lack of objection from these gathered here today, there is only one course," the stallion announced. "Little Wing, Misty Gust, I declare you both..." And here it was, that one final word to decide it all. Married.